Okay, so we have our fitting here, our compression fitting. We cut our line off. We had to end up cutting off 3 sections of line. This is the old piece that was broken on the end because the guy that had it before just broke the line, ripped it off to use it on something else, unfortunately. So we had to get cutting until we got a good piece of line. We have a good piece on the original fuel line. So now you can't really see it from here, but I'm installing the compression fitting onto the old original line. Important when you do that to make sure that the ferrule and the nut and everything are in the right place. I'm using my Pittsburgh Pro Harbor Freight ratchet wrenches here. I'm just going to be using the open end. I know I should be using a flare wrench, but I don't have one handy, so we're using whatever's handy. And not an endorsement or anything, but I found for the money. This set of Harbor Freight wrenches was only $20 with a coupon, and they're equally as good as gear wrench, which would be about $75 for the equivalent set. So, for the money, I'm pretty happy with them. I haven't broken them yet, and they're highly polished. They've been sitting in this truck for months, and they're not even rusty. So they must be fairly decent. Probably as good as Craftsman, anyways. And we're going to just take this line and attach it. Get this right here and slip it on. There we go. Alright, and this is a repair line that I bought from AutoZone. We're going to remove this other one and take off a section. This is the proper high pressure steel fuel line. Important consideration, this is more than just a regular steel fuel line. It has the double flare with the O-ring. That's important. This little O-ring right here is critical. That prevents the fuel from spraying out. A regular single flare steel fuel line with a threaded with a nut would not work. The AutoZone kit is nice enough to provide us with this little swell in the line so that the nut does not get halfway down the line and get stuck, which is I think a nice feature. So basically I'm going to cut off the last 3 or 4 inches of this to match up with my existing line using my little time-tested IMP mini tube cutter. It's a little old and a little rusty, but it works really well. So I did bend this last piece, but I don't need that anyway, so I'm going to eliminate that. I'm going to cut it right off here where it's good. And that's another thing too, that you should use a tube cutter whenever you're doing something like this, not a hacksaw or some other implement. You could do that in a pinch, I guess, but for this kind of stuff, tube cutter is really the best way to do it. Getting a nice clean cut. We're kind of a little rude and crude here, but we try to do it right when it counts. Okay. And just keep spinning it around, tightening up the nut a little bit as we go. There it is. And just make sure there's no obvious burrs. Sometimes I take a tool and just clean it up a little bit. In this case, I'll take my Leatherman. And I guess I'll take my knife blade and just give it a quick. You can use a file or a deburring tool for plumbing, just to make sure that the end is clean and free of little burrs. Let's see if I can try this one here. Oh, I know what I'll use my plier head. There we go. And again, try to make sure that there's no debris in the ends of the tube, as leaks may result if there are any such pieces of debris or anything in there. So I might put this back in. It's a little tight in here. I'd have more room if it was a straight 6, but it's not too bad. You can still work it. I can't see anybody doing this with a new Ford or Dodge or even a new Chevy. Oh, somebody's firing off around. Probably neighbors getting rid of their, getting rid of them damn groundhogs. They're coming out again.
I mean, we are in America after all. So.
That's right. We don't mind gunshots, do we? We don't mind some gunshots. Okay, there we go. All right, so I've got my fuel line. I know I've routed it in a different manner. I have routed it, as I said earlier in the video, it would have gone in front of the distributor and the coil and down in, and it was a bunch of bends, and it was just about impossible to get those bends, so I elected to go sweeping bend around the bottom of the base of the distributor. I'm free and clear of all the wiring and all the obstacles. Yeah, it's got a good, clean flow to it. So now, I'm going to take my other fuel line, and I'm going to draw it up in through from the back. There we go. And with a little bit of finagling, we should be able to get this all hooked up and have everything work, I hope. Bend this down a little more. There it is. Okay. So, now, the trick is going to be getting the two joined up. And we're going to have a little bit of a tight space here to work in, so I may opt to join them up and then put them back together again afterwards. But let's see if I can get this. This is tight here, but I can go down a little bit. Yeah, I think it's going to work. Oh yeah. Kind of take my hat off here. It's a little tight, but I think I can make it work. Okay, first, on goes the nut. And then the ferrule. That's the hard part. It's just a small part. It's hard to get it on without losing it. So hopefully we can here. Yep, there we go. Okay. Now with the ferrule and nut installed, join the two together and then tighten them. That's the tough part. Yep. Getting woodchucks, I think. Alrighty. I'm going to pull that off. Uh-oh. Hold on. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, so we have now completed the installation of the high-pressure fuel line for the throttle body 305. I'm going to just show you guys what we've done here. So basically, right here is the new fuel line installed. This is the throttle body. New fuel lines installed there, and I've gone down around the distributor and then over on the other side of the distributor. Right there is your compression fitting and connecting it to the existing fuel line. Now let me tell you, that was no picnic getting it to line up and getting everything hooked up. So what I did, I hooked up the compression fitting to the old fuel line first, got that all tight. I went and pulled the old fuel line out, hooked the new fuel line to the old fuel line, tightened the ferrule onto the fitting, took it back apart, and then got it back in, took it apart, got it back in there, got it lined up, tightened it as tight as I could, finger tight, and then wrench tightened it. And then installed it onto the back of the throttle body. So there you have it. There's a little bit of a hillbilly reincarnation of a fuel line. And again, it originally would have routed through this side. See, as you can see down here, I'm going to put my finger on it. This here is the original return line. Right here, coming up and running to the other side of the throttle body injection unit. However, as I said, running it in front of the coil, as you can see right there, right next to the casting numbers on the manifold, it would have come from there, right over across through here, and in and around to these various bends. Would have amounted to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, like half a dozen different very tight bends that I just really couldn't duplicate with that repair line. So again, as I said, it's a little bit rough, but I could have really got rough. I could have just used a section of fuel injection rubber hose, which is probably what a lot of guys would have done. I did not, however, do that. The line clears the distributor. It's not in the way to the distributor or any of the other lines or hoses or anything. And it's not rubbing against anything. And I probably will install a couple of zip ties and zip tie it to the return line down underneath the truck by the bell housing. So anyways, wrapping up now. This is what we got. And next step, starter installation, new battery, and hopefully we'll have this truck driving, running and driving soon. Anyways, Jed here signing off, and Caleb, Square Body Obsessed, and hope you guys enjoyed watching. Thanks for watching.